The little girl stood frozen in the middle of the crowded airport, clutching her pink backpack. And then the unthinkable happened. Rex, the most trusted police dog in the unit, suddenly lunged forward, barking furiously, eyes locked on her like she was a threat. Passengers screamed, officers drew their weapons, and chaos erupted. "Rex, heel!" Officer Mark Jensen shouted, but the dog wouldn't stop. His barks grew desperate, panicked, almost pleading. The child trembled, tears streaming down her face. "Please, make him stop!" No one understood what the dog was trying to say. Not yet. But within minutes they would discover the terrifying truth hiding inside that backpack. And by then it would already be too late. Before we start, make sure to hit like, share, and subscribe. And really, I'm curious, where are you watching from? Drop your country name in the comments. I love seeing how far our stories travel. The morning sun spilled through the tall glass walls of Terminal 4, painting golden streaks across the polished floors. The rhythmic hum of rolling suitcases, echoing footsteps, and distant flight announcements blended into the familiar soundtrack of travel. To the passengers hurrying toward their gates, it was just another ordinary day. But for Officer Mark Jensen and his K9 partner Rex, every day was a mission. Mark walked confidently through the terminal, his uniform crisp, his eyes scanning every corner. Beside him, Rex moved in perfect sync, a powerful German shepherd with sharp instincts and unwavering focus. The word police gleamed boldly on his black vest as his paws clicked softly on the floor. Together, they had become a familiar sight to travelers, the calm guardians of the airport's busiest wing. "Morning, Mark," called Officer Daniels from the checkpoint. "How's your partner doing today?" Mark chuckled. "Rex? He's already checked 5 bags and stared down a pigeon. I'd say he's in top form." A few passengers smiled as they passed, whispering softly about how disciplined the dog looked. Some children waved shyly. Rex's ears twitched, but his gaze never wavered. He was always alert, always ready. As they patrolled past Gate 12, Mark's radio crackled. "All clear in Concourse B," came the voice from Security Command. Mark responded with a brief acknowledgement, his tone steady. Routine days like these were the ones he appreciated most. Calm, predictable, no surprises. He took a sip from his coffee, glancing around at the mosaic of travelers, families reuniting, businessmen glued to phones, airport staff rushing carts down shiny corridors. Everything seemed perfectly ordinary. Mark gave Rex a gentle pat. "Let's finish the round, buddy. Maybe we'll get to clock out early for once." Rex's tail swayed slightly, a rare sign of relaxation. Neither of them knew, in just a few minutes, this calm, ordinary morning would turn into chaos. And Rex's instincts would uncover something no human eye could have seen coming, the kind of discovery that would change both of their lives forever. Just as Mark and Rex turned the corner toward the East Terminal, a small figure caught his attention near the row of metal benches. A little girl, no older than 8, stood quietly beside a vending machine. Her red coat looked slightly oversized, her jeans scuffed at the knees, and a pale pink backpack hung loosely from her shoulders. She clutched it tightly as if afraid someone might take it away. Mark slowed his pace. Children were rare in this part of the terminal, especially ones standing alone. He scanned the area quickly. No parents in sight. No one calling out her name. Just streams of strangers rushing by, too busy to notice the tiny, trembling presence among them. Rex stopped too, his ears perking up. He tilted his head, watching the girl intently. There was something about her, not danger, but an aura of sadness, maybe fear. Mark felt it too. The girl glanced around nervously, her eyes darting toward every uniformed officer that passed. Her lips moved as if she were whispering to herself, repeating something only she could hear. Then she adjusted her backpack straps and took a small step toward the boarding area, her little boots tapping softly against the marble floor. Mark frowned. "Hey," he muttered to Rex, "something's off." Rex's low growl was quiet but unmistakable. Mark radioed the nearby officer. "Got a minor alone near Gate 12, possible lost child. I'm checking it out." As he approached, the girl noticed him and froze, her wide green eyes locked onto the police badge glinting on his chest. For a moment she looked ready to run, but her tiny legs didn't move. "It's okay," Mark said softly, lowering his tone. "You lost, sweetheart?" The girl shook her head quickly, hugging the pink backpack closer to her chest. "No, I'm waiting," she whispered. "For who?" Mark asked gently. Her eyes flicked to the ground, her voice trembling. "For my dad." Mark blinked. "Where is he?" She hesitated, then looked up, tears welling. "He's not coming." And at that exact second, Rex barked once, loud, sharp, and urgent. The sharp echo of Rex's bark shattered the gentle hum of the airport. Heads turned instantly. The little girl flinched, stumbling back a step as the powerful German shepherd lunged forward, his leash tightening in Mark's grip. The sound wasn't his usual alert bark. It was deeper, raw, almost desperate. "Rex, easy boy," Mark commanded, straining to hold him steady. But Rex wouldn't stop. His muscles tensed, claws scraping against the floor as he pulled harder, his gaze locked entirely on the girl's backpack. Passengers nearby froze mid-step. A mother clutched her child. Phones came out, the familiar glow of recording screens lighting up the scene. "What's going on?" someone murmured. Another voice shouted, "Control your dog!" The little girl's eyes filled with tears. "Please make him stop," she begged, her voice trembling. She pressed the pink backpack against her chest protectively, as if shielding something precious. Mark's heart pounded. He'd worked with Rex for years. He knew every signal, every growl, every twitch of his partner's body language. But this was new. Rex wasn't showing aggression. He was warning. The dog's bark changed rhythm. Short bursts followed by low whines, a frantic plea that made the air feel heavy with tension. Mark's instinct screamed at him to trust Rex, but every pair of eyes around him demanded control. "Everyone back up," Mark shouted, positioning himself between the girl and the crowd. He tightened his hold on Rex's leash, sweat forming along his brow. Rex kept barking, eyes burning with a strange urgency, tail rigid, every muscle quivering with alarm. Mark swallowed hard. "What is it, boy?" he whispered under his breath, but deep down he already knew. Rex wasn't attacking. He was trying to tell them something. The terminal erupted into chaos within seconds. Travelers screamed, clutching their luggage as they scrambled to move away. A child began crying somewhere behind the crowd, and an elderly man stumbled against a chair, nearly falling as security rushed forward. The calm order of the airport dissolved into a blur of shouts, camera flashes, and frightened faces. "Stay back. Everyone move back," Officer Daniels barked, raising his arms to push onlookers behind the line. But people kept filming, phones lifted high, capturing the scene of the police dog lunging toward a terrified little girl. The girl stood frozen in the middle of the commotion, her red coat bright against the polished floor, tears streaming down her cheeks. "I didn't do anything," she cried out, clutching her pink backpack tighter. Her voice trembled, thin and fragile amid the rising noise. Rex's growls deepened, echoing off the glass walls. Mark held him firm, but the dog was stronger than usual, driven by something primal. "Rex, stop, sit," Mark commanded, but Rex refused to obey. His focus didn't waver for a moment. He kept barking, pulling toward the girl like something invisible was urging him on. "Mark," Daniel shouted over the noise. "What's happening? Why is he reacting like that?" "I don't know." Mark snapped back, straining to hold the leash. "But I know Rex, he doesn't act without reason." The crowd's murmurs grew darker. "That poor girl," someone whispered. "They think she's dangerous?" Another muttered. "Maybe the dog smelled something." Mark's mind raced. Protocol said he should separate them immediately, but his gut said otherwise. He'd learned long ago that Rex's instincts were rarely wrong. He took a deep breath, trying to cut through the panic. "Everyone stay calm," he shouted. "We'll handle this." The girl's trembling hand reached out, her lips quivering. "Please, officer," she whispered. "I'm not bad." And at that moment, Rex stopped barking, only to let out a long, low whine that sent chills crawling up Mark's spine. Something wasn't right. The dog wasn't afraid of the girl. For a long, tense moment, the world around them seemed to fade. The shouts, the flashing cameras, the airport noise, all of it dimmed beneath the sound of Rex's heavy breathing. Mark's hand gripped the leash tight, his pulse hammering in his ears. He'd been through bomb threats, drug busts, even shootouts. But he'd never seen Rex like this. The dog's body shook, not from aggression, but from sheer urgency. Mark crouched down beside him, lowering his voice. "Rex, talk to me, boy. What are you picking up?" His partner didn't look away. His gaze flicked between the girl and the pink backpack clutched against her chest, then back to Mark, eyes wide, unblinking, filled with something close to desperation. Daniels approached cautiously. "We need to take the kid in for questioning," he said quietly. Crowd's panicking. Commands asking for answers. Mark hesitated. Every rule told him to follow protocol. Every instinct told him not to ignore his dog. Rex barked again, a short, forceful sound that made the girl jump. She pressed herself against the nearest wall, tears streaking her face. "Please, I'm not bad," she whispered again. Mark's chest tightened. "I know, sweetheart," he murmured softly. "I know." Then to Daniels, his tone hardened. "We're not taking her anywhere until I understand what Rex's problem is." Daniels frowned. "You're trusting the dog over standard procedure?" Mark's jaw clenched. "I'm trusting my partner." Rex's tail flicked once as if he understood. His nose twitched toward the girl's backpack again, then to the air behind her, sniffing, scanning, uneasy. Mark followed his line of sight, but there was nothing there. Still, a knot formed in his gut. Something invisible was closing in, and Rex had already sensed it. Mark took a steadying breath, the tension hanging thick in the air. Around them, the once busy terminal had fallen eerily quiet. Passengers huddled behind the barriers, whispering anxiously, waiting for answers. Even the hum of the loudspeakers seemed distant now. All eyes were on the little girl, and the German shepherd who refused to calm down. "All right," Mark said, his voice low but firm. "Let's do this carefully." Two nearby officers stepped forward, their movements slow and cautious. "Sweetheart," one of them said gently, "can we take a look at your bag?" The girl clutched her pink backpack tighter, her knuckles white. "It's just my things," she whispered. Her lower lip trembled. "I didn't do anything wrong." Rex barked once, sharp and urgent. His nose twitched, tail stiff, every instinct screaming that time was running out. Mark could feel it too, a pulse of dread growing with each second. He crouched down so he was eye level with the girl. "Hey," he said softly, "you're not in trouble, okay? We just need to make sure everything's safe. Can I look inside your bag?" For a moment, she hesitated. Then with shaky hands, she nodded and slowly set the backpack on the floor. Rex immediately stepped forward, sniffing around it in tight circles. His ears pressed back, his body tense. He gave a short, low growl, not of anger but of confusion. Mark reached for the zipper, his hand steady though his heart was pounding. The world seemed to hold its breath as the metal teeth slid open. Inside were only a few small items. A neatly folded sweatshirt, a crumpled pack of crayons, and a small photograph tucked in the side pocket. Mark frowned. No wires, no metallic scent, nothing dangerous. Just a picture, one that made his breath hitch. It showed a man in uniform kneeling beside a German shepherd. The man's smile was proud, his hand resting on the dog's head. Rex's ears perked up. He sniffed the photo, then looked up at Mark, eyes glistening with something almost human. Recognition. Mark's throat tightened. He turned the photo over, reading the faded writing on the back. "To my little girl, Daddy will always come back for you." Mark's eyes flicked to the trembling child, and everything inside him shifted. This wasn't a threat. This was a story he didn't yet understand. Mark stared at the photo, the noise of the terminal fading into silence. The handwriting on the back looked rushed, uneven, written by a man who knew he might never return. He glanced at the little girl. She stood motionless, eyes red from crying, clutching her sleeves. The name on the badge in the picture glinted faintly under the light. Officer Daniel Hale, a name Mark hadn't heard in years. He swallowed hard. Daniel Hale, a decorated canine handler, one of the best, the man who'd trained Rex before him. Mark's grip loosened slightly on the photo as memories flickered back. The day Hale was reported killed during a raid overseas, and how Rex had refused to eat for days afterward. The dog had mourned in silence, sleeping by Hale's locker until he was reassigned to Mark. Mark looked down at Rex now. The German shepherd stood completely still, staring at the picture, his tail lowered, ears back. A low whine escaped his throat. It wasn't confusion anymore. It was recognition. Mark's voice came out quiet. "Rex, you knew him, didn't you?" Rex pressed his nose to the photo once more, then looked toward the girl. She wiped her tears, whispering, "That's my dad." Mark froze. The girl's trembling voice cut through every ounce of tension left in the air. She pointed at the picture, her eyes glistening. "He said his dog was brave. He said one day I'd meet him." Mark's chest tightened. He knelt beside her, holding the photograph carefully. "Your father's dog," he said softly, "was a hero." The girl nodded weakly. "His name was Rex." Mark exhaled shakily, staring at his partner. The realization hit like a surge of electricity. Rex wasn't barking at a stranger. He'd recognized a scent he hadn't smelled since his first handler's death. And deep inside, something told Mark that whatever connected them wasn't over yet. Mark guided the little girl to a nearby bench, away from the crowd and the flashing cameras. The chaos outside slowly faded into a dull murmur as airport security held the line. He crouched down to her level, keeping his tone calm and gentle. "Hey, sweetheart."
"Can you tell me your name?"
She sniffled, wiping her nose with the back of her sleeve. "Lily," she whispered. "Lily," Mark repeated softly. "That's a pretty name. Where's your mom?" Lily looked down, fingers twisting around the strap of her backpack. "Mom's gone," she murmured. "Dad said she's in heaven." Mark's chest ached. "And your dad?" Her lip trembled as she reached into her coat pocket and pulled out a folded piece of paper. "He told me to wait for someone here," she said. "He said his friend would come." Mark carefully unfolded the note. It was handwritten in the same uneven scrawl as the photo. The words made his throat tighten. "If anything happens to me, go to the airport. Ask for Officer Mark Jensen. He's the only one I trust." For a moment, Mark couldn't breathe. He glanced at Rex, who sat beside Lily protectively, tail curled close, eyes fixed on her like a guardian who already knew his duty. Lily's voice broke the silence. "He said Rex would remember me," she whispered. "He told me stories about his dog, how he saved people, how he never gave up. He said one day I'd meet him again." Mark swallowed the lump in his throat. "You were meant to find us," he murmured. Rex shifted closer to the girl, pressing his head gently against her knee. Lily gasped softly, then smiled through her tears, stroking his fur like she'd known him her whole life. For the first time since the chaos began, Mark saw it clearly. This wasn't a coincidence, this was destiny bringing back a bond that death itself hadn't broken. For a fleeting moment, everything seemed calm again, until Rex stiffened. His ears pricked sharply, nose twitching in short, rapid bursts. The calm, gentle expression he'd worn near Lily vanished, replaced by raw tension. His head snapped toward the baggage tunnel that ran beneath Gate 12, a restricted area filled with conveyor belts and luggage crates. "Rex," Mark said quietly, standing. The German shepherd's low growl began to vibrate through the floor. Then he turned back to Lily, letting out a short warning bark. It wasn't anger, it was alarm. Passengers glanced around nervously. The officers nearby exchanged uneasy looks. "What's he doing now?" Daniels muttered, hand instinctively moving to his radio. Mark's instincts kicked in. He'd seen this before, that same sharp alert posture, the same restless pacing. But something about it felt different, heavier, as if Rex sensed not a threat but danger approaching. Rex began to pace in tight circles, nose to the ground, tracing invisible lines in the air. He stopped, barked once toward the tunnel again, then nudged Lily gently with his nose, whining low and anxious. Mark's heartbeat quickened. "He's trying to tell us something," he said. "Something's not right." Lily clutched the straps of her backpack tighter. "Is he mad at me?" she whispered, voice trembling. Mark shook his head. "No, sweetheart. He's trying to protect you." Rex's tail went rigid as he barked again, this time toward the far end of the corridor where a line of unclaimed luggage sat unattended. Mark followed his gaze, his pulse thundering. "Oh no," he whispered, whatever Rex was sensing. It wasn't about the girl anymore. It was about something, or someone, else nearby. Mark's gut twisted as he followed Rex's gaze toward the distant row of unclaimed luggage. A chill ran down his spine. "Daniels," he said quickly, "pull up the security feed from Gate 12, last 20 minutes. Daniels didn't argue. He tapped into the terminal's camera feed on his handheld monitor while Rex paced restlessly, nose to the floor, growling low. The dog's instincts were in overdrive. Something had passed through here that wasn't right. Mark leaned over the screen as the footage loaded. The grainy video showed a steady stream of travelers, families, tourists, airline staff, all blending into the chaos of airport life. But then, a shadow moved differently. A tall man in a black jacket appeared, walking briskly, face obscured by a cap. "Pause," Mark ordered. Daniels froze the frame. The man placed a pink backpack identical to Lily's against a pillar, glancing around before slipping out of frame. Mark's stomach dropped. "Rewind 5 seconds," he said sharply. They watched again. The man looked over his shoulder one last time, and for a split second the camera caught his eyes. Cold, focused, purposeful. Then he was gone. Daniels muttered, "That's not the same bag, is it?" Mark looked toward Lily, who sat quietly with Rex beside her, hugging her backpack tightly. He glanced back at the screen, at the identical one left behind. "Someone swapped them," Mark said, his voice hard. "They planted a duplicate," Rex barked suddenly, loud and commanding, spinning toward the baggage area as if confirming it. Mark's jaw clenched. "Get the bomb squad down here now." The color drained from Daniels's face. I don't think," Mark interrupted. "Rex knows." And as the officers rushed into motion, the truth hit him like ice. Rex hadn't been trying to protect people from the girl. He'd been trying to protect the girl, and everyone else, from what she never knew she carried. The air inside the terminal turned heavy as officers cordoned off the area near Gate 12. Travelers were herded away, luggage abandoned mid-floor, announcements blaring evacuation orders. Mark's heart pounded as he followed Rex, who was now pulling hard on the leash, nose glued to the scent trail. The dog led them straight to the identical pink backpack resting beside a trash bin. "Everybody clear out," Mark shouted. "Now!" Bomb squad officers in heavy protective gear rushed in, their voices firm and controlled. Rex whined, pacing in small anxious circles. His instincts screamed danger. Mark stepped back but stayed close enough to monitor every movement. A specialist knelt near the bag, carefully sliding a scanner over it. The machine beeped once, then flashed red. "Confirmed, there's something metallic inside," the tech muttered. Mark's blood ran cold. "Everyone step back," he barked. "We're dealing with a possible device." Rex growled low, his entire body tense, eyes locked on the bag as if daring it to move. The lead technician slowly unzipped it, each inch of the zipper sounding louder than the last heartbeat in Mark's chest. When the flap opened, a faint click echoed, followed by the sinister blink of a tiny red light. "Timer!" the technician yelled. "It's live." Chaos exploded. Officers shouted orders, radios crackled, alarms wailed through the concourse. Passengers screamed as they were rushed toward emergency exits. Mark grabbed Rex's collar, pulling him back behind a pillar. "Disarm it now," someone yelled. Sweat streamed down the technician's face as he carefully clamped a wire cutter around one of the leads. "We've got less than 2 minutes." Mark's eyes darted to Lily, who was crying in Officer Daniels' arms across the hall. She had no idea how close she'd been to carrying death itself. "Please," Mark muttered under his breath, staring at the blinking light. "Come on." Then with a single snip, the light went dark. Silence. The tech exhaled shakily. "Device neutralized." Mark collapsed against the wall, heart still racing. Rex barked once, short, relieved, triumphant. But deep inside, Mark knew this wasn't over. Someone had planned this carefully, and that someone was still out there, watching. The aftermath was a blur of sirens, flashing lights, and frantic voices echoing across the terminal. Emergency teams swarmed in, sealing off entire corridors. But Rex wasn't done. His ears stayed pinned back, body tense, tail stiff as a board. Mark noticed it immediately. His partner wasn't relaxing. He was still on high alert. "Rex?" Mark whispered, kneeling beside him. The German shepherd's nose darted toward the baggage conveyor tunnel again, nostrils flaring. He barked once, sharp and urgent. Daniels hurried over. "We already found the bomb." "What's he sensing now?" Mark's gut twisted. There might be more. Without hesitation, Rex lunged forward, pulling Mark down the narrow maintenance hallway that led to the conveyor belts. The smell of oil and rubber filled the air as they descended into the restricted zone. The hum of the machinery masked their footsteps. "Dispatch, this is Jensen," Mark said into his radio. "We've got potential secondary device. Rex is leading. Lock down the tunnels and reroute all staff." Rex turned a corner, then stopped abruptly, barking at a row of unclaimed bags. His nose froze on one, an old brown suitcase wedged behind a cargo crate. Mark's heart nearly stopped. He dropped to one knee, flashlight trembling slightly as he aimed it toward the bag. A wire glinted in the beam. "Daniels!" Mark shouted. "Get the techs down here now!" Daniels' voice crackled through the radio. "ETA 3 minutes. 3 minutes might be too long. Mark muttered. He turned to Rex, who stood poised beside him, eyes fierce and unblinking. You found it again, didn't you? The dog gave a low whine, pressing closer to Mark's side as if sensing the danger closing in. When the bomb squad finally arrived, they confirmed what Mark already feared. This one was bigger, more sophisticated, and set to trigger remotely. Rex barked, breaking the tension as if demanding action. Mark grabbed the radio. Evacuate the terminal, now! Within seconds, alarms blared again, red lights flashing overhead. Rex's paws pressed against the floor, trembling with anticipation. Mark looked at him and whispered, We're not letting anyone get hurt today, buddy. And together, they waited, for the longest seconds of their lives, as the countdown of fate began to tick louder in the distance. The terminal shook with tension as the bomb squad worked in silence, their tools gleaming under the harsh fluorescent lights. Every second felt like a heartbeat closer to disaster. Mark stood back with Rex, one hand gripping the dog's harness, the other clenched around his radio. Sweat trickled down his neck despite the chill of the underground air. Timer's active, one of the techs muttered. Remote trigger. Could go off any second. Can you disarm it? Mark called out. We're trying, but it's not standard wiring, came the tense reply. Rex began whining, pacing in small circles, his instincts screaming that danger was seconds away. He looked at Mark, eyes wide and urgent. Mark understood immediately. Rex wanted to move, to act. Everyone clear out, Mark shouted. Pull back now! The squad hesitated. But sir, that's an order. The team scrambled out of the tunnel as Mark dragged Rex toward the emergency exit. They barely made it 10 steps before a deep, thunderous blast ripped through the air. The ground quaked beneath their feet, a wave of heat slamming into them. Mark threw himself over Rex, shielding him from debris. The lights flickered, then died. Smoke billowed through the corridor, filling it with the acrid sting of burning metal and dust. Coughing, Mark pushed himself up, his ears ringing. Rex! He called. The German shepherd shook himself free, unharmed except for a small scrape on his shoulder. His tail wagged once, weak but determined. Mark exhaled shakily, relief flooding his chest. Good boy. Good boy. Through the haze, sirens wailed and officers shouted commands. The blast had been contained. The tunnel had absorbed most of the damage. Above them, glass had shattered, luggage scattered, but the main terminal stood intact. Rex barked once, a sound of triumph that echoed through the smoke. Lily, watching from the safe zone with tears in her eyes, broke free from Daniel's hold and ran toward them the moment they emerged. She dropped to her knees, wrapping her tiny arms around Rex's neck. You saved us, she whispered, her voice trembling. Rex leaned into her, eyes soft, his breathing steady again. Mark watched silently, heart full. Amid the destruction, one truth stood unshakable. Rex had risked everything once again to protect the innocent. Morning light filtered through the hospital windows, washing the room in soft gold. Outside, news vans lined the street, broadcasting headlines about the heroic K9 who stopped a tragedy before it began. Inside, everything was still. Mark stood near the doorway, watching Lily rest on a bed with Rex curled protectively beside her. His massive frame rose and fell with each calm breath, his head nestled near her hand. The little girl stirred, blinking awake. When she saw Rex, a sleepy smile spread across her face. He didn't leave, she whispered. Mark smiled faintly. He never does. Rex lifted his head, ears twitching at Mark's voice. The bond between them had deepened, something beyond handler and partner. He'd saved hundreds before, but this time felt different. This time he'd protected a promise made long ago. A soft knock came from the doorway. The doctor entered with a clipboard and a tired smile. She's perfectly fine, he said. A little shaken, but no injuries. You got to her just in time. Mark nodded. It wasn't me, he said quietly, glancing at Rex. It was him. The doctor smiled at the dog. Then I'd say this hero deserves more than a medal. As the doctor left, Lily reached for the nightstand and picked up the worn photograph they'd saved from her backpack, the one of her father with Rex. She handed it to Mark. Can you keep this for him? She asked softly. So he'll remember my dad? Mark took it carefully, his voice low. I think he already does. Rex pressed closer to Lily, letting out a small sigh as she wrapped her arms around his neck. Tears welled in Mark's eyes as he whispered, You did good, buddy. You saved his little girl. Rex's tail wagged slowly. his gaze warm and peaceful. As the camera of morning news crews flashed outside, Mark looked out the window and said quietly, almost to himself, "Sometimes heroes don't wear badges. Sometimes they just bark and save the world in silence." And with that, Rex rested his head again, a silent guardian keeping one final promise fulfilled.